Thanks for this great question, and I truly do hear what you're saying. Now, to understand, if you want to enjoy the process, then just stick to the process. What we have to understand is it doesn't just come overnight, and there is things around us we have no control of. So if you are in an environment of chaos, you need to remove yourself from the chaos, or at least change your perspective that it is even chaotic. We have the control of the thoughts in our mind. If the environment is putting something that we are absorbing, then that is a choice. So we need to learn through mindfulness practicing, which is why we have affirmations to put the good thoughts in our mind, to then create the words and the actions that allow us not to create chaos in ourselves, but control absorbing what is in your surroundings and have focus to yourself. Thanks for this great question. Mental toughness is something that I am really focused on and is a big passion for me and helping others, because for me, I had a pretty cool journey of pursuing professional baseball, and along the roads of any athletics, we really have to try and have that super elite mental toughness to just stay consistent and as well keep our emotions and our mental health all in check. Now, for me, mental toughness is being able to have the comfort to be in uncomfortable situations and enjoying being in those challenges, but as well having the tenacity and the discipline and the work ethic to push through when there is times of adversity or challenges in performance that then lead to either maybe good results or bad, but just being able to stay consistent and push through with resilience in tough times. Thank you for this great question. For myself, what I would call someone who is mindful is someone who is conscious. And what is consciousness? This is having awareness to our thoughts, our words, and our actions, and having the ability to decide correctly if they are in sync and in tune with what our true values align with. Someone who is conscious is able to feel and see and hear deeper than just looking or visualizing or listening. They have the ability to see everything in their surroundings and objectively view it with purpose, and as well see how they fit into that situation. Having that mindfulness approach gives us the ability to be present and have consciousness to the highest level. Thank you for this Wisdom Wednesday question. And something I actually just heard yesterday was from my biologist, and he had mentioned that the human conditioning has been taught and not a part of our DNA. And he was going to a cellular level to explain that we have this belief that we are animalistic, that we just are here to mate, reproduce, and keep our genetics going because that is anthropology and that was what our whole purpose is. But realistically, he's explaining that we actually want to be conscious and divine, and our cells will align with those when our thoughts are on the same wavelength. So understanding that we are here to have the consciousness to be a being above the rest, which is why we are not an animal. Thank you for this great question. Definitely, it is something we have to challenge ourselves with, not lowering our vibration and putting ourselves actually in a worser direction with our emotions and with reactions. Now, we have a choice with all of our thoughts, our words, and our actions. We have to always be mindful that when we choose a decision, we have to be conscious of the outcome and the consequences of that decision. At what point would fighting or hurting someone be worth the value of what we're trying to achieve from fighting? Because most people want to fight to actually create peace. But the way of doing that is killing them with kindness. Because remember, honey does better than vinegar. This is a very interesting question. And to not get too philosophical, to see the sun or the flowers or the trees, they are completely selfless, and they are also completely flowing with their true divine purpose. Now, humans advertise themselves with titles because they are attached to an ego. We as humans have this identity that we need to feel purposeful. We need to feel as people identify us with a certain niche or a certain specific aspect to our role. And they feel that they need to advertise in order to align with the people who are on the same page. The sun has no reason to advertise. We know it's warm and full of life. A flower has no need to advertise because we see it has perfect beauty and grace. Thank you for this amazing question. I have definitely experienced this with people where we are having a conversation and I bring up a specific question or a topic, and right away they have a memory or an experience that aligns with what the topic we are talking about is. And because they have so much emotion attached to that memory, they have to let it out, and they almost cut you off or will blurt it out without rationalizing that they just reacted that way. And usually that person then responds by saying, "Oh, I'm sorry for cutting you off. I just had something pop in my head that was right on track." Even if it's a little bit off of alignment of what the full topic is, they have this deep emotional connection to that trigger, which is why they felt like they need to get it off their chest. And that's okay. That is why we have healthy discussions and help each other release that. Thanks for this great question. It's a very important topic. Of course, mindset is what we focus on. And the way I would say to change your mindset is to be focused on the process. But not only that, but to enjoy the process. And then realize this is what makes the journey a part of life and why we're supposed to smell the roses along the way. When we learn to lay one brick as perfect as we can, before you know it, you create that bridge to exactly where you want to be. Having a mindset that's positive, mindful, conscious, and aware allows us to make the correct decisions and become responsive compared to reactive. So having the ability to take one step forward today through journaling, affirmations, putting that into practice, and then seeing it manifest, it's just about taking one step in a positive perspective every day and staying focused. Thank you for this deep question. I actually just did a full talk yesterday all about 27 ways to develop a growth mindset. But to just dive into it quickly, we need to remember to pay attention to the little details and keep positive perspectives on how we are aligning ourselves with our daily values. We have to have principles that keep us disciplined, that keep us on track and align with our work ethic. To remember, it takes daily effort and a lot of gratitude. Our gratitude is what creates a positive attitude. And we also need to keep in mind the different practices and overall approach of how we develop our mindset. So a growth mindset is always keeping our glass half full and remaining conscious to the awareness of what direction we're putting our thoughts towards. Thanks for this amazing question. We learn to be more mindful by putting ourselves more in the present. And we do this by different techniques, which could be meditation, it could be reading a book, it could be just sitting in silence and reflecting. It could be going for a walk in nature and just listening to our surroundings and having no distractions. We become more mindful by having more awareness, and that is through consciousness and also having a focus towards the little details. Because when we stay one track oriented, when we focus on what we can control, before you know it, you are being more mindful. And that's just having the ability to take a step back, objectively look at what's going around you and what's happening in your scenario, but then taking the right steps and the principles that's going to put you on path to have a healthier mindset. And this is how we become mindful. Now, I decided to add my own question today to give a little bit more in-depth analysis to a question that was asked about boundaries. We need to understand boundaries are just a perception within our mind. People around us, society, conditioning, has told us a set amount of time or effort is a boundary based on others' efforts or experiences. Now, to push ourselves within our own boundaries is always going to be our own experience. No one can relate to David Goggins. No one could relate to Lance Armstrong. Their boundaries that they've pushed their body within are more than most people could mentally even fathom. But now there is other aspects, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, within those boundaries that they've slowly pushed themselves through to know that they are in with a healthy scope of their own mindset. Thank you for this great question. And to dive into meditation, we need to understand where meditation is coming from, because meditation is actually a way of living. Meditation that we have been taught is actually stillness. And by the practicing of meditation, we are actually practicing stillness. Meditation, derived from meditatum, is to ponder. So to have stillness, to have the ability to look at our thoughts and our experiences and everything that is surrounding us in that conscious time, is allowing our mind to be still with our body and our soul and putting them in alignment to have our frequency raised to a highest vibration. And from there, we start to meditate. And when we remove ourselves from that stillness, we then live in that direction with a still mind. Thank you for this amazing question. It is definitely a very deep concept, and understanding when and how to cross our own boundaries to become stronger is very in-depth. Of course, we've all heard no pain, no gain. But what does pain really mean? We want to have a progressive overload to how we are pushing ourselves towards challenges. For sure, there's going to be times where we need to endure a slight bit of suffering for us to be growing. Because if we don't put ourselves in those situations, we will never reveal the characteristics that we truly have within us. It takes time and effort to know how far to push your limits. Now, no one needs to put the gas all the way to the floor and put everything you can into one push. But being able to know how high you can rev yourself is just about feeling out, being attentive, and being conscious to your body awareness.
So as always, stay strong, stay consistent, and stay healthy, and keep developing yourself. Level up.